The auditorium buzzed with infectious excitement as families filled every single seat. Camera flashes went off like fireworks around me, creating a constellation of captured memories. Parents held colorful signs with their graduates' names painted in glitter and pride. Grandparents clutched tissues in their weathered hands, already crying with overwhelming joy before the ceremony even began. Brothers and sisters waved enthusiastically from the bleachers. But row 3, seat 12, the premium front row seat I'd reserved and paid an extra $40 for, sat completely, devastatingly empty. The silence radiating from that vacant chair felt louder than all the celebrations surrounding me. I walked across that polished stage with my computer engineering degree clutched in trembling hands, cum laude honors hanging around my neck like a golden testament to 4 years of sacrifice, shaking hands with the dean who praised my innovative senior thesis on artificial intelligence applications. But my eyes kept drifting helplessly to that empty chair like a wound I couldn't stop touching, couldn't stop hoping might suddenly be filled. Mom wasn't coming. She'd made that crystal clear in her brutal text message 3 hours earlier. Don't expect me to watch you parade around like you're better than us. College doesn't change where you came from, Alex. You're still the same needy girl who depended on me for everything. 22 years old, summa cum laude graduate, full scholarship recipient who'd beaten impossible odds, and I felt exactly like that desperate little kid again, begging for approval I'd never, ever receive. Back in my apartment that night, still wearing my cap and gown because I couldn't bring myself to take it off, I stared at my phone. The graduation party sounds from my neighbors. Apartments drifted through thin walls, laughter, clinking glasses, proud voices sharing toasts. My phone sat silent on my coffee table. No congratulations, no proud of you, no acknowledgement that I'd just achieved something she always said was impossible for someone like me. Then it buzzed. A Venmo request notification made my stomach drop like I'd swallowed ice. $8,500, back payment for raising you. Time to settle up. You're an adult now. I read it 3 times, each time feeling smaller and more hollow. She wasn't proud. She wasn't sorry she'd missed the most important moment of my life. She saw my graduation as payday. After years of telling me I owed her for every meal, every ride to school, every sacrifice she claimed to make for an ungrateful daughter, this was her finally collecting on the debt. I screenshotted it with trembling fingers, not knowing yet that this single image would change everything between us forever. My name is Alex Torres. First in my family to graduate college. First to even finish high school without getting pregnant or arrested, if I'm being honest. I'm a scholarship kid from East Oakland who learned to code in the public library because we couldn't afford internet at home. My mom, Carmen Torres, raised me alone after Dad walked out when I was 8 years old. She never let me forget it. Not for a single day in 14 years. Every good grade was met with, "Don't get a big head now, Mija. Smart don't mean special." Every achievement came with a reminder. Remember who got you here. Remember who sacrificed everything. I spent years trying to make her proud, thinking if I just worked harder, achieved more, became successful enough, she'd finally see me as worthy of her love instead of her resentment. But standing in my empty apartment, still wearing my graduation gown, holding that Venmo request in my hands, I finally understood the truth that had been staring me in the face for years. I wasn't her daughter. I was her investment, a long-term financial plan that she thought was finally ready to pay dividends. And she was ready to collect every penny she thought I owed her. Growing up in our cramped 2-bedroom apartment, Carmen had 2 favorite phrases that she wielded like weapons. "You owe me," and "I sacrificed everything for you." She'd say them whenever I asked for anything. New shoes when mine had holes so big I put cardboard inside them, help with homework that confused me, or just her time and attention like other kids got. Every birthday, every Christmas, every small moment of happiness came with an invisible price tag attached. "See what I do for you?" she'd say, handing me a wrapped gift with one hand while holding out her metaphorical bill with the other. "Don't you forget it." When other parents bragged about their kids at school pickup, she'd roll her eyes dramatically. "Alex thinks she's so special because she gets good grades. Wait until the real world hits her and she realizes being smart don't pay bills." She treated every one of my successes like personal attacks against her authority, like I was deliberately trying to make her look bad by doing well. High school was when I first realized that something was seriously wrong with our relationship. Sophomore year, I got accepted to a prestigious summer coding camp at UC Berkeley. Full scholarship, all expenses paid, dormitory included. My computer science teacher, Miss Rodriguez, was absolutely thrilled when she told me the news. "Alex, this could change your whole trajectory," she said, her eyes bright with excitement for my future. "Companies recruit directly from this program." I ran home with the acceptance letter clutched in my sweaty hands, ready to share what felt like the best news of my life. Carmen read the letter twice, her face getting darker with each word. Then she tore it up into tiny pieces right in front of me. "You're not going anywhere," she said coldly. "Who's gonna help me with bills while you're off playing computer games with rich kids?" I watched my dreams flutter into the trash can like confetti. That night, she made me clean the entire house top to bottom. "So you remember your place in this family," she said. I never told Miss Rodriguez what really happened. Senior year brought the envelope that would change my life. My MIT acceptance letter with a full-ride scholarship. Early admission, need-based aid covering everything. I hid it for 3 whole days, planning exactly how to tell Carmen the news. I cooked her favorite dinner, arroz con pollo, cleaned the house until it sparkled, and even bought flowers with money from my part-time job at the local grocery store. "Mom," I said carefully, sliding the letter across our kitchen table. "I got into MIT, full scholarship. They're paying for everything." She didn't even look at the letter. "MIT? You mean debt. You mean abandoning your family for some fancy school where they'll teach you to look down on people like me." She stood up abruptly, swept the letter onto the floor with the back of her hand. "Over my dead body. You're staying here, getting a job and helping me like a good daughter should." But I was 18 now. For the first time in my life, I had legal choices that she couldn't take away from me. I went to MIT anyway, leaving Oakland on a Greyhound bus with 1 suitcase and my laptop. Carmen didn't speak to me for 6 months straight. When she finally called, it wasn't to apologize or ask how I was adjusting to college life. "You better not come crawling back here when you fail," she said, her voice ice cold through the phone. "And don't expect any help from me when reality hits and you realize you bit off more than you can chew." During my freshman year, while my roommates got care packages full of homemade cookies and encouraging texts from proud parents, I got complete silence from home. When I made Dean's List first semester, I sent Carmen a photo of the certificate, hoping she might finally be proud. Her response came 2 days later. "Hope it was worth abandoning your mother for a piece of paper." I stopped sharing my victories after that. They only seemed to make her angrier and more convinced that I was deliberately trying to hurt her by succeeding. College years were the loneliest time of my life. While other students complained about their parents calling too much, checking up on them constantly, I prayed mine would call at all. I sent Carmen Mother's Day cards every year, birthday gifts I couldn't afford on my work-study budget, even money when I could spare $20 or $30 for my campus job. She'd accept everything without a single word of thanks, like it was her due. During winter breaks when I came home, I'd find my childhood bedroom turned into storage space, boxes stacked on my old bed. "You don't live here anymore," she'd say flatly when I asked about it. "You made that choice when you left for your fancy school." I'd sleep on the living room couch, listening to her tell neighbors through thin walls how I'd abandoned my family for some degree that won't amount to nothing. Each visit home felt like I was apologizing for succeeding, for becoming something she couldn't control anymore. Graduation day arrived after 4 grueling years of academic excellence. 4 years of internships at Google and Microsoft during summers, while my classmates went home to family barbecues. 4 years of job offers from tech companies that most students could only dream about. I'd made it against every odds stacked against me. I called Carmen 2 weeks before the ceremony. "Mom, I'm graduating summa cum laude. That means highest honors. I reserved you a front row seat. It would mean everything in the world to me if you came." The silence stretched so long, I thought the call had dropped. "You want me to celebrate you leaving us behind?" You want me to smile and clap and pretend to be proud while you show off for all your rich friends? I tried desperately to explain it wasn't about showing off. It was about sharing the proudest moment of my life with the person who'd raised me, the person who mattered most. Find someone else to pat you on the back for your little performance, she said, each word like a knife. I won't be part of your show. The line went dead, leaving me holding my phone in my dorm room, surrounded by my packed boxes and shattered hopes. That Venmo request sat on my phone like an unexploded bomb, glowing on my screen in the dark apartment. $8,500. For raising me. For being my mother. I called my best friend Maya, who'd watched this toxic dynamic destroy me slowly for years. She's literally billing you for being your mother? Maya's voice was incredulous, rising an octave. Alex, this isn't normal. Healthy mothers don't send their kids invoices for existing. This is insane. But normal was completely relative in my family universe. Carmen had always kept meticulous score of every penny spent on me, every favor granted, every moment of her time I'd consumed. Every meal had a mental price tag. Every ride to school was logged as a debt I owed. I'd grown up believing that love was purely transactional, that family was essentially a business arrangement, where I was permanently, hopelessly in debt, with no way to ever pay it off completely. Maya's raw anger on my behalf helped me see clearly for the first time. This wasn't love. This was manipulation wrapped up in maternal language, with a very real price tag attached. I made a decision that surprised even me. I would pay Carmen exactly what she'd asked for, not because I actually owed her a single penny, but because I wanted to make a point that would cut deeper than any argument ever could. I pulled out my laptop and started calculating every dollar she'd spent raising me over 18 years. Food, clothes, school supplies, medical bills. But then I did something she never expected. I subtracted every dollar I'd given her back over the years. Every birthday gift since I was 16 and had a job. Every Mother's Day present I'd saved up for. Every time I'd helped with rent during high school. Every care package I'd sent during college. I included interest charges for emotional damage, late fees for missed milestones like school plays and science fairs, penalties for verbal abuse disguised as tough love parenting. When I finished the calculations 3 hours later, the final total was absolutely stunning. She owed me $12,847. I drafted a detailed invoice with specific line items and exact dates, formatted it professionally like the business transactions she'd turned our relationship into. At the bottom, I wrote in red text, "Payment due immediately. Terms, non-negotiable. Thank you for your business." I sent the invoice with a carefully worded note. Dear Carmen, since we're settling accounts and treating family relationships like business transactions, here's your bill. You raised me for 18 years, which I acknowledge. But I've been paying you back in various forms for the last 8 years of my life. Emotional labor fees, gift reimbursements, and damages for missed opportunities due to your sabotage are all itemized above with supporting documentation. Thank you for the valuable lesson about treating family like a business arrangement. Payment is expected promptly. I attached copies of bank transfers showing money I'd sent her, receipts from every gift I'd bought her since getting my first job, and screenshots of her most hurtful texts over the years, evidence of the emotional damage she'd caused. Then I blocked her number, her social media accounts, and anyone else who might try to contact me on her behalf. For the first time in my entire life, I wasn't sitting around waiting for her approval. I wasn't begging for scraps of her love. I was completely, utterly done playing a rigged game where I always lost no matter how hard I tried to win. Carmen absolutely did not take my invoice well. Within hours, she was calling Maya's phone, screaming incoherently about my unbelievable disrespect and how dare she. She messaged every one of my college friends she could find on social media, claiming I'd turned into a heartless monster, and that college had ruined my values. She even went as far as contacting my high school teachers, telling them I'd become ungrateful and cruel to the woman who sacrificed everything for me. But something completely unexpected started happening. People began taking my side instead of hers. My old computer science teacher, Miss Rodriguez, responded publicly. "Carmen, I remember the Berkeley camp incident when Alex was 16. She deserved better support then, and she deserves better now. Other teachers shared similar memories of Carmen undermining my opportunities. Former neighbors recalled her constant complaints about my achievements. The narrative she'd carefully controlled for 22 years started cracking wide open, and people were finally seeing the truth about who she really was behind the martyred single mother facade. The story exploded across social media when Maya decided to post about it on TikTok. She kept it simple. Just a video of her holding printouts of both Carmen's Venmo request and my detailed invoice response. "My friend's mom literally charged her for being raised," she said into the camera, so she sent an itemized bill right back. The video got 2 million views in the first day. Thousands of comments poured in from people sharing their own stories of toxic parents and financial manipulation disguised as love. News outlets picked up the story within 48 hours. Local TV stations, online magazines, even national blogs were reaching out for interviews. Suddenly, I was getting hundreds of messages from complete strangers who understood exactly what I'd endured for 22 years. Meanwhile, Carmen was getting absolutely roasted in every comment section. People were finding her Facebook posts and tagging them with crying, laughing emojis. Her carefully curated public image as the long-suffering single mother was crumbling in real time. And she had no control over the narrative anymore. Carmen decided to try capitalizing on the viral attention by playing the victim on an even bigger stage. She somehow got herself booked on a local daytime talk show, where she sat in the guest chair wearing her best dress and crocodile tears. My daughter publicly humiliated me on the internet for raising her with tough love. She sobbed dramatically into the cameras. "I sacrificed everything I had, worked multiple jobs, went without, so she could have everything she needed. And this is how she repays me, by mocking me online for the whole world to see." But the show's producers had done their homework thoroughly. The host pulled up my invoice on a giant screen behind Carmen, pointing out each line item that documented years of emotional abuse. They interviewed Maya via video call, who shared the Berkeley camp story and several other instances of Carmen sabotaging my opportunities. Carmen's victim narrative collapsed completely in real time, broadcast live to thousands of viewers. The comments section afterward was absolutely brutal. "Tough love doesn't include charging your adult child for existing. This woman is delusional if she thinks this makes her look good." The viral attention brought unexpected opportunities my way. I got a call from a tech startup that had seen my story trending online. "We need engineers who stand up for themselves," the CEO told me during our video interview. "Your technical skills are impressive from your portfolio, but your backbone is what really convinced us you'd be a perfect fit for our team culture." The salary offer was more than Carmen had made in 5 years combined, and they were offering equity in a company that was rapidly growing. I signed the offer letter while sitting in my new apartment, a spacious one-bedroom in a safe neighborhood that I'd paid for entirely with my own money. No help needed, no strings attached, no guilt trips about ungrateful daughters. When the local news station reached out wanting to interview me about overcoming family dysfunction to achieve success, I politely declined their request. Carmen could chase headlines and media attention all she wanted. I was focused on building a stable, healthy life for myself, something I'd never had before. Carmen made one final attempt at reconciliation, but she did it through my uncle Miguel, her younger brother who'd always tried to stay neutral in family drama. "She misses you, Mija," he said when he called me at work one afternoon. "She's really sorry about that whole Venmo thing. She was just feeling emotional and didn't think it through properly. She's proud of you, but doesn't know how to say it without losing face." I listened patiently to his well-meaning mediation attempt. Then I asked him directly, "Miguel, did Carmen actually tell you she was sorry? Did she use those exact words when she was talking to you?" There was a long, telling pause. "Well, not exactly those words specifically, but I could tell she—" "Then she's not sorry," I interrupted as gently as possible. "She's embarrassed because her manipulation tactics got exposed publicly and now everyone can see who she really is. There's a huge difference between being sorry for hurting someone and being sorry you got caught." Miguel couldn't argue with that logic, because he knew I was absolutely right. I started going to therapy with Dr. Kim to process 22 years of conditional love and emotional manipulation. It was the first time I'd ever talked to a professional about my childhood, and the conversations were both eye-opening and heartbreaking. "Children don't owe their parents for being born, Alex," she said during one particularly intense session. "Love isn't a loan with interest that accumulates over time. Healthy families don't operate on debt systems where children are expected to pay back their parents for basic care." I learned about narcissistic parenting patterns, emotional abuse tactics, and something called trauma bonding, where victims become attached to their abusers through cycles of punishment and occasional kindness. Each therapy session felt like removing heavy weights I'd carried for so long, I'd forgotten they weren't actually part of my body. For the first time in my adult life, I began to separate my sense of self-worth from Carmen's approval or disapproval. It was absolutely terrifying and completely liberating at the same time. My career success story kept growing beyond anything I could have imagined. The startup I joined went public within 2 years, and my stock options made me financially independent by the time I turned 24. Tech magazines wrote feature articles about my rise in the industry. Business websites featured me in their 30 under 30 lists. I was invited to speak at conferences about overcoming adversity and building resilience in the face of family trauma. But the real victory wasn't the money in my bank account or the recognition from industry leaders. It was the complete absence of toxic phone calls. No more guilt trips disguised as family loyalty. No more walking on eggshells around someone who was supposed to love me unconditionally. No more constant anxiety about saying the wrong thing and triggering another emotional explosion. I sent my Uncle Miguel updates occasionally, just so extended family knew I was not only surviving but absolutely thriving. Carmen never asked about me anymore through intermediaries. She'd finally stopped pretending to care, and that honesty was somehow more peaceful than her fake concern had ever been. 2 years after our final confrontation, Carmen tried reaching out through my cousin Sophia with what I recognized as her classic manipulation playbook. "Your mom's having some serious financial problems," Sophia said carefully during our phone call. "Her car broke down and needs major repairs she can't afford. She's behind on rent. She's too proud to ask you directly, but..." I cut her off as gently as possible before she could finish the guilt trip. "Sophia, I'm genuinely sorry to hear Carmen is struggling, but I'm not responsible for her financial planning or life choices. She made it crystal clear when she sent me that Venmo request that our relationship is a business transaction." Sophia pressed harder. "But Alex, she's still family. You're doing so well now." "Family doesn't send bills to their children for basic parenting," I replied firmly. "Family doesn't sabotage their kids' opportunities out of jealousy. Carmen taught me that relationships are business transactions with itemized costs. She can't change the rules now, just because she needs something from me." I discovered through social media, because I couldn't resist occasionally checking, that Carmen had been telling anyone who would listen that I'd abandoned her in her time of greatest need. She posted long, dramatic Facebook rants about ungrateful children who forget where they came from, and how success changes people for the worse. The comments on her posts were mixed. Some people sympathized with her tale of woe, but others who remembered my viral story from 2 years earlier pushed back hard. I didn't respond to any of it or try to defend myself publicly. I'd learned that engaging with her drama only fed the cycle and gave her exactly what she wanted: attention and a reaction. Instead, I focused all my energy on building genuine, healthy relationships with people who valued me for who I was as a person, not what I could provide for them financially or emotionally. Dr. Kim had taught me about the concept of chosen family. People who earn their place in your life through consistent love and support rather than biological obligation. My real victory came when I was invited to speak at my alma mater's graduation ceremony, 3 years after my own lonely walk across that stage. Standing at the same podium where I'd received my degree, looking out at hundreds of families celebrating together in the packed auditorium, I felt a profound sense of completion. I talked about resilience, about defining success on your own terms instead of seeking approval from others, and about recognizing that not all relationships are worth preserving just because they're family. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is set firm boundaries. I told the sea of graduates and their families, especially with family members who treat love like a business transaction. You don't owe anyone your peace of mind or emotional well-being, regardless of what they've done for you in the past. The standing ovation felt like the applause I'd never received on my own graduation day, finally delivered by people who understood the message. After my speech, a young woman approached me backstage, tears streaming down her face. "My mom does exactly the same thing yours did," she whispered, looking around nervously as if Carmen might materialize. "She keeps detailed track of every single thing she's ever spent on me. Food, clothes, school supplies. She reminds me constantly that I owe her for existing. I thought it was normal until I heard your story." I gave her Dr. Kim's contact information and my personal email address without hesitation. "It's not normal at all," I assured her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "And you deserve so much better than that kind of conditional love." Over the following years, I received hundreds of similar messages through email and social media. Young people trapped in transactional family relationships, thinking they owed their parents indefinitely for basic care and housing. I tried to help each one see what I'd learned too late in my own life. Love shouldn't come with an itemized receipt or payment plan. Carmen never apologized for the Venmo request that started this whole confrontation. Never acknowledged the profound emotional harm she'd systematically caused throughout my childhood and young adulthood. Never showed any genuine interest in having an authentic mother-daughter relationship with me that wasn't based solely on what I could provide for her financially or emotionally. She never asked about my career successes with real curiosity or personal happiness with authentic care. Never inquired about my friendships or hobbies or dreams for the future. Not without immediately following up with thinly veiled requests for money, favors, or public validation of her parenting skills. She never demonstrated any capacity for self-reflection about her behavior or willingness to change her fundamental approach to our relationship. And gradually, through months of intensive therapy sessions and deliberate personal growth work, I realized that her complete lack of change was actually perfectly okay with me. I'd spent the first 22 years of my life hoping, desperately, that she would somehow transform into the nurturing, supportive mother I needed and deserved, waiting patiently for her to become capable of loving me properly and unconditionally, the way healthy parents love their children. But people don't change their core personality patterns unless they genuinely want to do the difficult work of growth. And Carmen was completely satisfied being the perpetual victim in her own carefully constructed narrative about ungrateful children and unappreciated mothers. I couldn't force her to love me the way I needed to be loved, couldn't make her see my worth or celebrate my achievements, but I absolutely could stop accepting poor treatment in the name of family loyalty and misplaced obligation. That choice, that firm boundary I finally learned to set and maintain, became my freedom, my peace, and my path to genuine happiness. Today I'm 28 years old and living a life I designed entirely for myself, brick by brick, choice by choice. I own my apartment outright in a neighborhood where I feel safe walking alone at night, run my own successful consulting firm that helps other startups build ethical technology solutions, and have built a chosen family of people who celebrate my victories without keeping score or sending bills for their support. My living room walls are covered with photos of friends who show up when I need them, colleagues who've become genuine mentors, and moments of joy that nobody tried to charge me for experiencing. I keep my graduation photo prominently displayed on my office desk, the one where I'm standing alone on that stage in my cap and gown, smiling despite everything. For years, whenever I looked at that photo, I felt overwhelming sadness, thinking that girl was fundamentally broken because her own mother couldn't love her properly or unconditionally. Now I know the deeper truth. She was incredibly, unbelievably brave. She walked across that stage carrying all that rejection, all that conditional love, all those years of being told she wasn't enough, and she kept going anyway. She didn't let Carmen's cruelty define her worth or limit her possibilities. She built a meaningful life through sheer determination, one carefully considered choice at a time, refusing to accept less than she deserved. And she never sent Carmen that $8,500, the smartest financial decision she ever made in her young life. That money stayed in her bank account where it belonged, and eventually became the down payment on her first apartment, the seed money for her consulting business, the foundation of a life built entirely on her own terms without anyone else's permission or approval. Sometimes the best revenge isn't elaborate or dramatic. Sometimes it's simply refusing to play a rigged game anymore, walking away from toxic people, and building something beautiful in the space they used to occupy. Sometimes healing looks like a bank account they can't touch, a phone number they don't have, and a peace they can't disturb. Sometimes freedom is just the quiet satisfaction of knowing you broke a generational cycle of manipulation and chose something better for yourself. 3 years later, I received a wedding invitation from Maya. She'd found someone who celebrated her victories without keeping score. At the reception, surrounded by people who understood that love should be freely given, I raised my glass in a toast. To chosen families, to boundaries that protect us, and to the courage it takes to walk away from people who can't love us properly. The applause that followed felt like the graduation ceremony I'd always deserved.